For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. Fears and superstitions of the Soviet Union. The Black Volga and Stalin's secret wife. In the Soviet Union, the role of the black emergency vehicle was played by the Black Volga, a car used mostly by representatives of the authorities. Ordinary citizens gained the opportunity to buy a Volga only at the end of the 1970s. The mysterious car drove through the streets of Soviet cities and abducted children who were then never seen again. In later versions, the car even had the license plate SSD, meaning death to Soviet children. The authors of the book quote one of their respondents, who says that as a child she knew the Black Volga kidnapped children. My friend Lyuzia told me that a boy was walking down the street and a Black Volga stopped next to him. The window cracked open and a black hand stuck out, offering him a ball. The boy wanted to take it, but they dragged him into the car, and no one ever saw him again. This legend clearly refers back to the era of Stalinist terror, when the black cars of the NKVD secret police would arrive early in the morning to arrest real and owls, mostly imagined enemies of the regime. And afterward, indeed, no one ever saw them again. The authors of the book claim that Lavrenti Beria, the all-powerful head of the NKVD, who lost the struggle for power after the death of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin and was later executed as a Western spy and saboteur, may also have been involved in the birth of this legend. To satisfy his sexual appetite, Beria would choose girls and women on the streets of Moscow. As Dmitry Shepelov, who for many years was part of the party's Central Committee, wrote in his memoirs, when Beria drove from the Kremlin to his home, he repeatedly ordered his guards to drag into the car any girl he liked who happened to be walking on the sidewalk. Beria himself did not deny this. Sometimes I sent my men after a girl to find out her address, get acquainted with her, and possibly bring her to my home. And there were many such cases. Beria said during his trial, "One may or may not believe this, as no one knows for certain what Beria, who sent hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to their death, went through during preliminary detention. Trotsky and the Branch's legends also arose during the persecution of the Trotskyists. Leon Trotsky, Stalin's main rival in the struggle for power after the death of the founder of the Bolshevik state, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, was exiled abroad in 1927. But according to Stalin's doctrine of intensifying class struggle, he was still designated the principal enemy. NKVD agent Raman Mercator killed Trotsky in Mexico in 1940. Real and imagined supporters of Trotsky were subjected to terror in the Soviet Union. Most real ones were killed or imprisoned by the late 1920s, but that did not stop the machinery of terror. In 1935, a brochure was issued for all propaganda workers, stating that Trotskyists had shifted to sabotage and were trying to disguise their propaganda. The brochure said that sabotage took the most diverse forms. Sometimes, during photographic retouching, ordinary photos suddenly acquired counter-revolutionary meaning. Supposedly, there were cases where an enemy hand skillfully drew in the faces of enemies of the people, visible when viewed at the correct angle. Modern researchers call this hyper-semiotics, meaning the search for symbols where there are none. Cases are also described in which vigilance was shown by people very far from correctly interpreting academic concepts. For example, in the mid-1930s, a Leningrad match factory changed the label on its packaging because, at a certain angle, the image of a burning match on the matchbox could resemble the silhouette of Trotsky with a goatee. An incredible case was described by Kiev historian Eduard Andriushchenko. In the spring of 1937, the Kiev newspaper Communist published a photograph of the new thermal power station of the silk spinning factory, Shaklopriad. Within days, the image was examined with a magnifying glass by NKVD Lieutenant Myron Akimov. In the left part of the image, above the roof of the building, between the branches of the trees, the portrait of the counter-revolutionary and fascist Trotsky is clearly visible, said the report that landed on the desk of NKVD Chief Nikolai Yezhov. To see a face there required exceptional imagination. Andriushchenko published the image, highlighting the suspicious area, on his Facebook page and asked people to write what they saw. The answers varied, from a bear to a naked woman, but no one saw Trotsky there. Except the NKVD investigators. They arrested the photographer Vsevolod Skamandra and the retoucher Vladimir Tsetnerovsky. A forensic examination confirmed that the photograph, after retouching, indeed showed the face of Leon Trotsky. True, the expert first identified the silhouette in a different place than Akimov. Only after the investigator's explanation did he find Trotsky's face in the correct spot. In the original photograph, which had been published in other newspapers, Stalin's main enemy was not visible. Therefore, the retoucher Tsetnerovsky became the main suspect. But he stubbornly refused to confess guilt. He was very lucky to be imprisoned before July 1937, when Stalin began mass purges in which many people were executed for much smaller infractions. In January 1938, the retoucher was released. After Nazi Germany attacked the Soviet Union, he was drafted into the army and 2 years later died at the front. Poisoned chewing gum, the state itself contributed to the spread of certain legends when it suited its purposes. The spy paranoia of the 1930s, when even talking to a foreigner could lead to fatal consequences, gradually faded. Yet the authorities still disapproved of citizens' contact with foreigners, especially those from the West, though people from the socialist countries abroad were also viewed with suspicion. Limiting such contacts became increasingly difficult as the Soviet Union opened up more to the world. The nearly unsolvable problem was the 1980 Moscow Summer Olympics. Authorities recommended that parents take their children out of the city during the games. Children were also warned A woman in a police uniform came to our class and said that if we couldn't leave town, we definitely should not go to the center. And if we ended up there, we were forbidden to talk to foreigners. And if we did talk to them, we must not take anything from them. Supposedly, one girl asked a foreigner for chewing gum and was poisoned. Now she is in the hospital. They have transfused 7 liters of blood, but nothing helps. Another girl was given candy by a foreigner after she showed him the way to the hermitage. At home, her mother broke open the candy, and inside was crushed glass. Recalls a resident of Leningrad, the city now known as St. Petersburg. Almost all the children believed it. And not only children. I went with my parents to the Pushkin Museum, and there we met a couple from Great Britain. They asked something, and my mom helped them. They talked a bit, and then they gave me chewing gum. But my father took it from me, and when we walked away, opened it, broke it, and tasted it. Only after 5 minutes, when nothing happened to him, did he give it back to me. And my parents were educated people. My father was an engineer. My mother taught English at the university. But they still believed it, recalls well-known photographer and blogger Rustam Adagamov. Rumors also spread that jeans sold by black marketeers were infected with syphilis. But even this did not work. Children still wanted chewing gum, and demand for black market goods did not weaken. In 1987, the Criminal Code even introduced an article criminalizing pestering foreign citizens in order to obtain something from them. Stalin's secret wife. The authorities' attitude toward urban legends changed over time. This is well illustrated by an example from 1952. A tractor driver, deeply angered by poverty, social inequality, and arrogant leadership, wrote an anonymous letter to the Politburo. In it, he blamed all his problems on Jews, and wrote that Stalin had a secret Jewish wife who controlled him and wanted to destroy everything Russian. The author of the letter did not remain anonymous for long and soon received several years in a labor camp to think about whether writing such a letter had been a good idea. Had he written it 6 months later, everything might have turned out differently. In January 1953, Pravda published the article, "Vile Spies and Murderers," disguised as doctors, professors. It accused the doctors of the Kremlin hospital, mostly Jews, of being American spies who were killing Politburo members through poor treatment. The wave of anti-Semitism that followed surprised even the Kremlin. People refused to be treated by Jewish doctors. Old legends about the ritual murder of Christian children resurfaced, and even several attempts at pogroms occurred. Among Jews, rumors spread that Stalin intended to deport them as an unreliable population to Central Asia. Fortunately, a few months later Stalin died, and the campaign ended, but the ground for it, thanks in part to urban legends, had been perfectly prepared.